Hey Wow TV fam. I just wanted to quickly thank you for being here. Crafting these videos takes time, and if you enjoy what you see, a like goes a long way. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on our content and help our community grow. I love hearing your thoughts, so drop a comment with any suggestions or feedback. Alright, let's dive into today's video. In the quiet corners of South Carolina's history lies a chilling tale of darkness and depravity. A story that delves into the twisted mind of a man whose name still sends shivers down the spine of those who remember. This is the story of Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins Jr., a name synonymous with terror and brutality. Born Donald Henry Parrott Jr. on March 13, 1933, Pee Wee Gaskins led a life marked by violence, cruelty, and a thirst for the unthinkable. As we navigate through the layers of his troubled past, we uncover a series of heinous crimes that would shock a nation. Gaskins was not merely a serial killer, he was a master of macabre methods, stabbing, shooting, drowning, and poisoning, claiming the lives of more than a dozen people. But what led him down this path of darkness? What fueled the mind of a man who showed no mercy? Before the murders that would define him, Gaskins left a trail of criminal activities, with convictions for assault, burglary, and statutory rape. Yet, it was his connection to the disappearance of a 13-year-old girl, Kim Gelkins, that unraveled the horrifying truth. Police, in their search for the missing girl, stumbled upon a gruesome discovery: 8 bodies buried in shallow graves near Gaskins's home in Prospect, South Carolina. The courtroom drama that followed showcased the sinister reality of Gaskins's actions. A jury's swift decision sentenced him to death by the electric chair, but it was a sentence that would be overturned, leading to a shocking twist in the narrative. Instead of facing a new trial, Gaskins made a chilling confession, pleading guilty to the murders that haunted his community. Imprisoned at Central Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina, Gaskins's dark legacy persisted. Behind bars, he orchestrated another murder, this time with explosive consequences. As we delve into the depths of his crimes, we uncover the disturbing details of his life within prison walls and the additional death sentence he received. In a desperate bid for notoriety, Gaskins claimed to have killed 110 people, a statement that has since been discredited by law enforcement and journalists. Yet, in sworn testimony as part of a plea agreement, he confirmed the murders of 13 individuals between 1970 and 1975. Join us on this harrowing journey as we piece together the fragments of a disturbed mind and the darkness that consumed the life of Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins Jr. Unravel the mystery, explore the psychology, and confront the chilling reality of a man who became the embodiment of evil. This is the untold story of Pee Wee Gaskins, the South Carolina Nightmare. Donald Henry Gaskins, born in Florence County, South Carolina, to Yulia Parrott, found himself as the last in a line of Parrott's illegitimate children. Despite his small stature, earning him the moniker Pee Wee, Gaskins stood between 5 feet 4 inches, 1.63 meters, and 5 feet 5 inches, 1.65 meters, weighing approximately 130 pounds, 59 kilograms. His early life unfolded in an environment marked by a significant lack of attention from his mother and abuse from a male relative. Surprisingly, Gaskins only became aware of his given name, Donald, during his initial court appearance. Widely acknowledged as a master manipulator and street-smart con artist, Gaskins was noted for his keen sense of humor and a friendly, entertaining personality. When he was 1 year old, Gaskins reportedly drank a bottle of kerosene which caused him to have convulsions until age 3. In adolescence, Gaskins engaged in a violent crime spree with a group of fellow delinquents which included burglaries, assaults, and a gang rape. At age 13, Gaskins was convicted of assaulting a young woman by hitting her in the head with an axe when she caught him breaking into her family home. He was sentenced to 5 years in a reform school, the South Carolina Industrial School for White Boys in Florence, where he was regularly raped by his fellow inmates. After escaping from the reform school, getting married and voluntarily returning to complete his sentence, Gaskins was released in 1951 at the age of 18. He briefly worked on a tobacco plantation until he was arrested in 1953 for attacking a teenage girl with a hammer over an alleged insult. he was sentenced to 6 years imprisonment at the South Carolina Penitentiary. There, Gaskins earned his fellow inmates respect by killing the most feared man in the prison, Hazel Brazel, in what Gaskins claimed was self-defense. As a result, Gaskins received an extra 3 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter, but from that point on he became the aggressor instead of the victim. He escaped from prison in 1955 by hiding in the back of a garbage truck and fled to Florida, where he took employment with a traveling carnival. He was rearrested, remanded to custody, and paroled in August 1961. Following his release from prison, Gaskins reverted to committing burglaries and fencing stolen property. 2 years after his parole, he was arrested for the rape of a 12-year-old girl, but absconded while awaiting sentence. Gaskins was rearrested in Georgia and sentenced to 8 years of imprisonment. He was paroled again in November 1968. Upon his release, Gaskins moved to the town of Sumter, South Carolina, and began work with a roofing company. Gaskins recounted his first non-prison-related murder, targeting a blonde female hitchhiker in September 1969. He admitted to torturing and killing her before disposing of the body in a swamp, expressing a disturbing sense of unrestrained power in his memoirs. "All I could think about is how I could do anything I wanted to her." This marked the inception of a horrifying pattern, as he claimed to have picked up and killed numerous victims while traversing the coastal highways of the American South. Termed coastal kills, Gaskins revealed that these acts were driven purely by pleasure, occurring approximately once every 6 weeks during his hunting expeditions to alleviate his feelings of bothersomeness. He confessed to tormenting and mutilating his victims, attempting to prolong their suffering. Gaskins admitted to using various methods, including stabbing, suffocation, mutilation, and even cannibalism. While he later confessed to killing 80 to 90 such victims, these statements have never been independently verified. Inconsistencies emerge in his memoirs, where he initially claimed to commit coastal kills every 6 weeks but later stated feeling an overwhelming urge to commit such acts by the 10th day of each calendar month. Specific individuals were named among Gaskins' serious murders, including an African-American couple, Eddie and Bertie Brown, aged 24 and 20, respectively, murdered in 1972. He buried them behind the Tennant House, a location vaguely described in his autobiography. Another victim, Horace Jones, 40, met his demise in 1974, according to Gaskins. However, skepticism arises as there is no evidence supporting Gaskins' claims of additional murders beyond Hazel Brazel and the 14 victims listed below. These victims' bodies have been found, identified, and their deaths corroborated by law enforcement records and Gaskins' sworn testimony. In November 1970, Gaskins committed the first of a series of confirmed murders, primarily people whom he knew and killed for personal reasons. His first confirmed victims were his own niece, Janice Kirby, aged 15, and her friend, Patricia Ann Alsbrook, aged 17, both of whom he beat to death. He said he was enraged at their drug abuse, while others say he was attempting to sexually assault them in Sumter. Gaskins claims to have poisoned Martha and Dix Jr., also known as Clyde, 20, in March 1971 or 1972, either because of a rumor Pee Wee was the father of her unborn child. She generally dated only women but was known to mess around with men from time to time, or out of revenge because she was an alleged drug dealer who supplied Kirby and Alsbrook, or because she got married and left for Texas to be with her wife. Her bones were found in a ditch, but lost when given to a university to study. Gaskins was an overt racist and he raped and drowned both Doreen Hope Dempsey, 22, and her 2-year-old daughter Robin Michelle Dempsey in June 1973. Gaskins had befriended Doreen Dempsey several years prior and was angry upon hearing she had become pregnant a second time with an African-American man. She had been living with Gaskins' friend Johnny Sellers and his brother Carl Sellers in North Charleston, South Carolina. They brought her to Gaskins' home in Prospect, and left her there to speak with Gaskins about staying with him for a short time while she was pregnant. Upset that Doreen was having a second biracial child, Gaskins responded by walking her to his backyard pond where he drowned both the mother and her toddler. In June 1974, Gaskins shot his friend and criminal associate Johnny Sellers, age 36, in the back of the head, and stabbed to death Johnny's ex-girlfriend Jessie Ruth Judy, age 22, after Sellers asked for money he was owed from the sale of a stolen boat. Gaskins feared Sellers would reveal Gaskins's involvement in the boat theft and sale. Gaskins was also involved in an auto theft ring. Jessie Judy was murdered at the same time because she could have told police about Gaskins's criminal activities, including murdering her boyfriend, Johnny Sellers. Silas Barnwell Yates, age 45, was murdered in February 1975 by having his throat slit in a murder-for-hire scheme. The forensics showed it was by knife, but Gaskins disputed this, saying it was done by karate chop. Yates was in a dispute with his ex-girlfriend Suzanne Kipper Owens, and she and her husband John Owens paid Gaskins $1,500 to murder Yates. Diane Bellamy Neely, age 25, was separated from her husband Walter Neely, who was one of Gaskins's closest friends and a criminal co-conspirator. On April 10, 1975, Gaskins stabbed to death Diane Bellamy and shot dead her boyfriend Avery Leroy Howard, age 34. Among other reasons, Gaskins murdered Diane Bellamy because she had threatened to report to police that Gaskins was allowing underage teenagers to have sex in his home. Avery Howard was murdered because he asked for money to pay attorneys and cover legal expenses following his arrest for fraud and auto theft. Gaskins worried Avery Howard would tell police about Gaskins's criminal activities. Kim Gelkins, age 13, was stabbed to death to keep her from telling police Gaskins had moved her from North Charleston without permission, and to keep her from telling police she was being sexually abused by several adult men, including Gaskins. Dennis Bellamy, age 27, and John Henry Knight, age 15, were half-brothers, and Diane Bellamy was their sister. Within minutes of each other, Gaskins shot the two brothers in the back of the head on October 10, 1975. Gaskins had promised to pay Dennis Bellamy for some stolen guns. When confronted by Bellamy at Gaskins's trailer home in Prospect, South Carolina, he responded by offering to return the guns from the woods behind his home. He took Bellamy into the woods to retrieve the guns, but murdered him instead. John Henry Knight was directed to the same area, allegedly to meet his brother, but was also murdered to ensure he could never speak of the crimes. Rudolph Tyner, age 23, was on death row in CCI prison for a March 1978 double murder when he was murdered by Gaskins on September 12, 1982. Tyner was appealing his own death sentence after being convicted of robbing a Moles Inlet convenience store and killing store owners Bill and Myrtle Moon on March 18, 1978. The Moon's son, Tony Chimo, hired Gaskins for $2,000 to kill Rudolph Tyner because in Chimo's view, the appeals process was taking too long. Tony Chimo asked Gaskins what he needed to kill Tyner, then Gaskins told him to insert some C4 inside the heel of a shoe and mail it to him. This way Gaskins obtained plastic explosives with a blasting cap, a long wire, and a radio speaker to create an imitation intercom speaker that Tyner put to his ear to test. Gaskins then detonated the makeshift bomb by plugging the wire into a prison cell power outlet. In November 1975, Gaskins faced arrest after a criminal associate, Walter Neely, disclosed to the police his awareness of Gaskins' involvement in the deaths of Dennis Bellamy, age 28, and Johnny Knight, age 15. Neely admitted that Gaskins had shared details of killing several individuals reported as missing over the past 5 years and had revealed the locations where he buried them. On December 4, 1975, Neely guided the police to a plot of land near Gaskins's residence in Prospect. There, law enforcement uncovered the remains of 8 victims. Gaskins faced trial for one murder charge on May 24, 1976, and was found guilty on May 28, receiving a death sentence. However, this was later commuted to life imprisonment due to changes in the South Carolina General Assembly's 1974 ruling on capital punishment, aligning with U.S. Supreme Court guidelines for the death penalty in other states. On September 2, 1982, Gaskins committed another murder while incarcerated in the high-security block at the South Carolina Correctional Institution, earning him the moniker Meanest Man in America. He killed death row inmate Rudolph Tyner, who had received his sentence for murdering an elderly couple during a failed armed robbery. Gaskins was hired for this murder by Tony Chimo, the son of Tyner's victims. Chimo initially faced murder charges but pled guilty to lesser offenses, serving 8 years in prison before being paroled in 1986. Gaskins attempted to kill Tyner through unsuccessful poison attempts before resorting to explosives. He rigged a device in Tyner's cell, convincing him it would facilitate communication between cells. Following Gaskins's instructions, Tyner unwittingly held a speaker, loaded with C4 plastic explosive, to his ear, resulting in his death. Gaskins remarked, "The last thing Tyner, heard was me laughing." Subsequently, Gaskins was tried for Tyner's murder and received a death sentence. This marked the first time in South Carolina's history that a white man was sentenced to death for the murder of a black man. While on death row, Gaskins claimed responsibility for 100 to 110 murders, including that of Margaret Peg Catino, the 13-year-old daughter of South Carolina State Senator James Catino Jr. of Sumter. These claims have been widely disputed, with no evidence supporting Gaskins's statements. Gaskins was executed on September 6, 1991, at 1:10 a.m. in the electric chair, hours after attempting suicide by slitting his wrists. His last words were, "I'll let my lawyers talk for me. I'm ready to go."